I guess we're just gonna start off with well, first of all, we hope everyone's doing good, and we're happy to be back. But I think we're gonna start off with our picks from last time. If y'all watched, we had 6 games that we picked who we thought would win in the NFL, and some of us did pretty decent. One of us didn't do so good in our selections. We're about to find out how that went. But so me and Jacob, we went 3 for 6. We were all pretty much similar in which games we got right. We all picked the Bears. We all picked the Vikings. And then my third game that I got right, I picked the Colts over the Steelers. Jacob picked the Falcons over the Saints. We all missed. We all picked the Bills over the Ravens. We saw how that went. We all picked the Eagles over the Buccaneers. We also saw how that went. And then, yeah. So Tyler, on the other hand, our lone wolf, he went 2 for 6 in his selections. So he only got the Bears game and the Vikings game right. But that's okay. It's a long year. There's still plenty of games left. But after 1 week of our picks, there's a soul man in last place, and I'm just gonna leave that there.
In my
But yeah.
defense, in my defense, I will say that the games I picked came down to a quite a bit of a one-score game. Just let the people know that I didn't
The
miss
ones
by
you picked
by
right, or
much.
the? Oh no, you
No,
missed by a lot on the Bills and the Eagles. And
well, yeah, we
the
all
you
missed
did. There
big on
was
that
one
one.
game. Actually, there was one game that you picked wrong that was close. Two, I guess. Two.
Yeah, the Colts, and then
I'll mess with you. We all. I mean, I don't think any
um,
of us expected what happened in the Bills and the Eagles game to go like they did, but we'll talk about those in a little bit. So I guess next we're just gonna dive into how our teams did. I know last time we kind of talked about what we wanted to see from our teams, and we kind of had visions of what they needed to improve on, what they haven't been doing good of at all. And I think some of our teams did a little bit better than others. Two of our teams walked out with a win. Again, one of our favorite teams is still winless on the year, but so I'll let that team go first. So, Jacob, what'd you see in your Jaguars this weekend? Yesterday,
You
or not
know,
yesterday? You know what I mean?
I did see minor improvement in Trevor Lawrence. He still was kind of
Yeah.
missing wide open guys. I know he did have Thomas Jr. wide open. He did a little hesitation move on the DB. All he had to do was hit him in stride, and it's a walk-in touchdown, and he overthrew him. So that cost 7 points right there. But I did notice Travis Etienne was down for some reason. They said he didn't, or he was out the first half of the
Yeah.
season, or not season, but first half. And so Bigsby stepped up, which doesn't shock me. The dude's a workhorse back there. So he had 7 carries for 90 yards. And so that
Yeah.
was kind of like a big thing. But yeah, just like I touched on last week, Lawrence needed to get the ball to his playmakers, in which he did. Christian Kirk had 7 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. And then Thomas had 6 catches for 86 and a touchdown. So I feel like that was kind of like the big thing for offense and getting them back into it. I mean, the Texans still helped a tremendous amount. I mean, 12 penalties for 93 yards is an insane amount, especially after a
That's
big chunk, massive chunk plays. I know CJ Stroud wasn't too happy, and I know their coach wasn't too happy about it because they'd get like a 28-yard pass, and then it's like, oh, just kidding. We're going to come on back as a holding or a legal man downfield. But yeah, and then we just couldn't capitalize on it.
yeah.
But there was definitely some minor improvement. I'm still not sold on the play calling though, because Jags were up 3 minutes left in the game. They got 3 point lead. You can literally just run the clock out and win the game. And I think literally the drive that they screwed up on, it was the final drive. Doug Peterson calls a run play, which is smart, run the clock, burn their timeouts. But then he proceeds to call back to back passing plays that were incomplete.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like you just gave, and then you give the ball back to the Texans with 2:36 left. Like what are we doing here? So like it's just I think it's just kind of a combination of both. You're winning the ball game, you got to control the game a little bit, and
Yep.
at the end of the day, you just basically handed the Texans the game.
Well, and that's the thing too. With when you're 0-3, you'd think you'd be a little bit more aggressive in those situations. Game on the line. Uh, I mean, we touched on it last week that the biggest thing that we both wanted to see, and I know you more than me because it's your favorite team, but I also mentioned it last week, that you drafted Brian Thomas in the first round to be your wide receiver one, be your guy. They made it a priority. He was their wide receiver one. He had a lot more. I mean, he had 6 catches. He had 9 targets, and like you said, one of them that was a touchdown. He would have had his second touchdown of the day, over 100 yards. Trevor
Yep.
Lawrence hits him. I remember, I forgot what part in the game, but Trevor Lawrence also overthrew Christian Kirk for what would have been a
Yep.
wide open touchdown.
It was the opening drive going into the third quarter,
Yeah,
just right
so
out
that's
of the
what.
half.
So, and both of those guys already, they had good days, but just imagine if those passes are complete, then we're looking. Well, first of all, Jaguars win by a pretty good margin.
Yeah.
Jaguars are 1-3, but second of all, we already said that they had good days at receiver, but those are even better days. And it's crazy because you're looking at yourself and you're like, oh, well, we're 0-4, but Jaguars played better yesterday. If you think, I mean, if you, like we just said, if you hit those 2 passes, I mean, that's two
That's
touchdowns.
14 points right there. It's a
Yeah,
crazy difference.
and then you're looking at a double-digit win. I mean, but that's the part of the NFL. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he had the fumble, but he threw no interceptions this week. And I mean, his touchdowns, those were good passes and everything, but he was just missing. I mean, his completion percentage, he went 18 for 33. Um, I don't know. Again, it's like, I feel like he's making the right reads. It's just he's missing
He's
the
missing the
easier,
easy
yeah,
passes, 5 to 10 yard passes.
yeah. And then also on top of that, missing some of those deep shots that
The
he
big home run hitters.
100% wants him back. Yeah, so that's just tough because now you are 0-4. I mean, yeah, they should have won, but you didn't at this point. So now you really got to get to the drawing board and figure something out. Or, I mean, in football, it's completely different than baseball where you have 162 games. A few losses here and there don't matter as much in baseball. In football, every game counts, and it's really hard to dig out of a 0-4 hole. And they have a talented team. That's what we said.
Yep.
They're good, but they're 0-4, so it doesn't matter how talented your team is if you're 0-4.
Yeah, it definitely hurts. Stings a little bit knowing we could have walked out of there with a win, especially the division leader.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, that was a chance to put a division loss on the Texans. That would have helped out the whole division. But now, Texans, I mean, they were already the favorites. Everyone, including me and probably you two, expects them to run away with the AFC South. And it's games like that the rest of the teams have to find ways to win those games, especially against the Texans, who are substantially better, at least this year. So I don't know. It was tough. I watched the whole game, and it was tragic because there was moments I was like, oh, they're actually gonna get this done, and then you could just feel it towards the end of the game. You're like, you could see it coming.
Yeah. Offense kind of just stalled out, and it's just like, yep, here come the Texans.
Yep. But it's okay. We'll see. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna look at the Jags' upcoming schedule real quick. So yeah, they play the Colts next week in Jacksonville. I know you said last week that they haven't lost to the Colts in Jacksonville in a very long
9
time.
seasons. It's been
Yeah.
Colts are 0-9 in Jacksonville in the last 9 seasons.
That's gotta be bring a little bit of hope into
One would
Duval.
think.
So
One would think.
Let's just not get our
and then
hopes
after
up
that,
over
yeah. Well, and then after that game, I mean, that's the thing though. If you win that game against the Colts, no offense, Tyler, but they play the Bears. That's a winnable game. It could go either way, but it's a winnable game. Then you got the Patriots, who let's be honest. I mean, Jaguars are better than the Patriots. The Patriots, eh, they're going to be picking in the top 3 of the draft next year. If that's my guess on it, that's my take on it. Jaguar. I mean, the point is they have a chance to get themselves back in it the next few weeks. If they just got to start somewhere. So it would have been huge. We talked about it. It would have been a big momentum building game against the Texans, and then 1-3 going into the Colts. I mean, that looks completely different. But now you're 0-4. Now you have to win. So it's just more pressure, and I think the seat may be getting a little hot for Doug Peterson. Just a little bit.
Yeah, especially with the play calling. Again, I don't know what he's doing. So definitely something needs to change to help him at least.
Yeah.
So
But we'll see. We'll see what they do against the Colts next week. I guess we just talked about them a second ago. Tyler, I know you weren't able to watch too much of the game, but what'd you think about your Bears this week?
I think all around they played really good on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the defense is just the past couple weeks. The defense has just been carrying the team. This week, Caleb Williams, pull it up. He went. He was 17 for 23 with 157 yards with 1 touchdown and no picks. And like I said last week, we needed to get the run game more involved. And DeAndre Swift had 16 attempts for 93 yards and a touchdown. And when you do that, you start to see flashes of that. Caleb Williams can be good, and that he's a rookie, so he's still going to be developing. But you're starting to see flashes of where he can be. Not some flashy quarterback who's going to go out here and throw for 400 yards every game, but he can definitely get the job done and bring it home to a win.
Yeah.
And I saw something the other day where he's the first quarterback in the Bears history to be as a rookie to win his first 2 home games. So that's a plus.
Well, I know. Well, you just talked about DeAndre Swift with how big his rushing performance was, but almost half of Caleb Williams' passing yards were also to DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift had 7 catches for 72 yards in the game. I mean, he was just a difference maker the whole game. And I know when you think about quarterbacks and you see Caleb Williams only threw for 157 yards, normally you'd be like, well, that's not very good. But there was a few throws. Caleb made really good throws, and his receivers were kind of letting up on some of the routes a little early, and one of them was a touchdown. If I think it was DJ Moore, he let up a little bit early on the right sideline, and I mean, there's no guarantee that he would have caught it because we don't know if it would have been overthrown still or not. But he slowed up on the route, but nonetheless, I mean, Caleb Williams was making better decisions. Obviously, you can't complain at all with that completion percentage. He was very accurate. Speaking of DJ Moore, he completed his first touchdown pass to DJ Moore in his career on a very good throw, getting it over the middle of the field, over the defender, and into the back of the end zone. That was a great throw. And Caleb Williams just continues to show his ability to just escape pressures and escape sacks. And that's just so valuable if you have a guy that can get away from that. And I don't know. That's another thing. I know we just wrapped up the Jags game, but that's another thing too. I just thought of it, and I want to say it before we continue the Bears game, that the Jaguars did not do a very good job of completing sacks on CJ Stroud, and Caleb Williams is showing that exact same ability where pressure's hitting you, and we know the Bears' offensive line could use a little bit of work, so you're going to have to be able to create some plays and everything like that, and that's something that guys like that have that you want in a quarterback. If if it's hitting the fan, you gotta sometimes be able to make something happen out of nothing, and he was showing the ability to do so. So I thought it was cool to see. I think Caleb Williams definitely took a leap forward this game. Still not lighting up the stat sheet like everyone thought he would, but it was an improvement. And really, for how good of a defense the Bears have, you don't really need a quarterback to go out there and light things up. You just need him to go out there, similar to what the Titans need. I'm going to touch on that later too. Is you just need your quarterback to go out there and just sometimes just take what's given to you. You don't have to always go out there and play hero ball, like we know Caleb Williams does sometimes, and those will happen. Like he's too talented. The hero plays are also going to come, but I think that was the biggest improvement this week. Is he was very good about taking what was given to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah,
especially against a Rams team that they're no slouch of a team.
Well, yeah, and I mean,
even though they do have two of their receivers hurt right now, but
right, and that's actually what I was about to say. I mean, and that obviously doesn't affect Caleb's side of the ball. So I mean, Matthew Stafford. That's another thing I want to talk about in this game. Matthew Stafford also looked really good. He was putting them in positions all game. He didn't throw any touchdowns, and he threw one pick, but the pick was at the very end, to seal the game. So I still think that the Rams will be a good football team when everyone's healthy, but it just seems like here lately, I mean, Cooper Kupp the past few years hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then Puka, obviously, it's only his second year in the league, but they are drastically hurting not having him on the field also. And then the combo of both of them, that's always tough to overcome. But I thought the Rams also did a good job of just being able to stay in that game, because it could have gotten out of hand if they didn't stay composed. Kyron Williams had a big game too.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah.
So Dylan, how about them Titans, man? First time they've scored over 30 points in like 38 games or something crazy like that. How about that streak getting broke?
38 games, 1,002 days since the last time the Titans scored 30 points in a regular season game. And I mentioned that on our last show that it had been a very long time. And the crazy thing is I didn't even, it's been so long, I forgot all the little details. But the last team the Titans did score 30 points on was also the Dolphins. So last year they had the 14-point comeback with like 3 minutes left in the game on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins. Titans may need to play the Dolphins every single week, is all I'm saying at this point. Because good things happen when we play the Dolphins. But even though it's easy to look at the scoreboard and say, oh, we won 31-12, that's a great game. It wasn't all great, unfortunately.
No, it was not.
The first half, if you boys were watching the game with me beside me, y'all would have thought that I had anger issues because I was livid.
To be fair, you do. So
yeah, I was
don't just blame that on
angry.
The first half of the Titans game.
I was angry, and so I was telling y'all the biggest things that I wanted to watch and I wanted to see improvement on was our offensive line. It's been terrible on the right side. Left side, we've drafted a left guard in the first round 2 years ago. We just drafted a left tackle in the first round this year. Left side's young, but they've played well. Our Skoronski, the left guard, he could be a little bit better, but our first round tackle, J.C. Latham, has been everything we could have wanted for him, especially after what our left tackles have been the last few years. But the right side, our right tackle, I stand by it. I think he's the worst right tackle in the league. But unfortunately, that's not something that you're able to address in the middle of a season, so you're just kind of stuck with it. Because teams, once they get those good tackles, they're not letting those kind of guys go. It's just the matter of it. They're too important of positions. Those are the guys you pay on the O-line. And we just, right now, don't have a way out. I really hope they don't have to draft another offensive lineman in the first round, because that's never the exciting pick, but I also don't blame them. But anyways, the first drive of the game, Will Levis completes 3 passes. We're running the ball. There's a roughing the passer. They tackle Will Levis
Have to draft
low.
another offensive lineman in the first round because that's never.
And then the turnover bug strikes him again, and he throws an interception to D lineman. He catches it kind of in between his legs. It was honestly a crazy pick. But, he leads the league in turnovers coming into the game. Very first drive, throws a pick. Second drive, he kind of got the refs kind of butchered the call in my opinion. He dove for a first down on third down, and he landed awkwardly on his shoulder, hurts his shoulder, out for the rest of the game. So Mason Rudolph comes in. The wild thing is that I can't wrap my head around is we haven't scored 30 points in a game in that long, boys. The game that we do it in, Mason Rudolph was 9 for 17 passing with 85 passing yards. And that's the game that we finally break 30. It blows my mind, but, you know, Tavondre Sweat, our second round D tackle, he was amazing. He actually had the highest rated PFF grade out of all interior defensive linemen this week, and he did it as a rookie. Defense as a whole looked good today, but that's my next point. The Dolphins, I mean, Tyler Huntley did not look good in this game.
No,
Um,
especially with underthrowing and then overthrowing Tyreek. Pretty much almost every pass to him. That was kind of brutal to watch.
and we saw how frustrated Tyreek Hill was getting on the sidelines. He was making it known his frustrations, and I don't blame him. I would be frustrated too, but they just you could I mean obviously they had to change the playbook. They just brought it was his first game in there. Um, you could just tell that they were very conservative on their play calls. Couldn't get anything going. Um, they only had the one touchdown, and then we got an interception on their 2-point attempt. Um, and then they had the 2 field goals in the first half. They just weren't able to get anything going offensively the whole game. And at halftime, Titans were up 9-6, but in my eyes, it felt like we were down 30-6 because I knew against if Tua's out there for them, in my opinion, that game looks a whole lot different because they're scoring on some of those. I'm not gonna get too much into. I'm gonna make myself mad again watching it, but this is the craziest part, boys. So we won 31-12. Guess we threw 3 passes total in the second half of the football game. We only threw the ball 3 times. So that means our run game was good. We were mixing it up. We were bringing in Tajay Spears and Pollard. And
Well,
then,
so I
yeah.
don't know if y'all we have a question from a viewer,
Oh, okay.
and it says I need y'all to discuss how underutilized Tajay Spears has been these first 4 weeks.
That's actually what I was about to say. I loved the Wildcat play in the red zone. The juke move that he put on that play alone
Putting him
was
on skates out there.
nasty. That's the thing. I think a lot of fans, including me, when we got rid of Vrabel and brought in an offensive-minded coach, I personally, and I can't speak for every fan, but I know a lot of fans had the same thing. I was excited that we were going to get a fresh offense, a more modernized offense that was more revolved around the passing game, because we're used to having all these great running backs. We just got done having Derrick Henry. You had CJ2K, Eddie George, just full of great running backs in the Titans organization. And then now you have 2 very dynamic running backs with Pollard and Spears, very similar play style. Spears is coming off of a really good rookie year last year. I personally thought before we signed Pollard that he was going to have a massive increase in his workload. And then even after we signed Pollard, I thought that it would be really close to 50-50, maybe 60-40%. I thought we'd see a lot of play packages where they're both on the field at the same time. With how the Titans receivers are, I mean, outside of Ridley and D-Hop, and then Boyd's really good too, I honestly wouldn't even be mad if they use Spears as kind of like a slot receiver every now and then. Just throw him out there, let him run some routes just in that, and still have Pollard in the backfield. Like, there's just so many different things that we can do as an offense with having 2 running backs now that we couldn't do with Derek, that could just keep defenses guessing. And I think it was up until this week we just like our viewers' comment was, we just haven't utilized Spears at all. Like it's almost like he hasn't even been playing, because it's all been Pollard. But our run game hasn't really been good up until last night. Also, like the first 3 games. I mean, Pollard had a good week 1, but the past 2 games we haven't really run the ball good either. So I'm hoping that the coaches open their eyes and see what Spears did last night, because I thought both Pollard and Spears both had a good game yesterday. But you got to get Spears the ball, especially when our passing game has been as rough as it has been in terms of turnovers. You got to find ways to get the easy, even if it's just easy check downs to the running backs, screens, anything. Just get them involved. It doesn't have to be 20 touches apiece. It doesn't. We don't have to run the ball 50 times like we used to do when Derrick Henry was in here. But that's the thing that's exciting about what our offense was supposed to be. You can get them involved in the passing game too. And I agree. They have underutilized Spears, and I think there's a million ways that they can use him more. And hopefully last night was a little bit of a sneak peek of more to come. But also, it's one of those things too. You don't really know, because they completely changed the play calling and playbook once Mason Rudolph came in and everyone could tell. So I don't know if that's a normal thing that we're going to keep seeing, or because Brian Callahan did say today, and that's something else I want to touch on too, guys, that when he's healthy, Will Levis is still 100% the Titans starting quarterback. And I thought after the game that we were going to have a controversy, but Brian Callahan shut that down instantly. Right after the game and today in his press conference, and then it didn't seem like it was a major injury. So with the bye week, he should be back in 2 weeks against the Colts. So we'll see. I'm just hopeful. And I mentioned last week too, Will Levis doesn't need to be a hero at all. He just needs to be a game manager. Being a game manager, like, that includes getting your running backs more involved, whether it's handing it off, involving them in the pass game. You don't have to always throw it downfield and put the ball in danger. So I'm excited to see what we do after the bye week. I think they're gonna try and shake things up and figure things out during the bye week this week.
Agreed.
Sounds pretty solid to me.
Yeah, I told y'all before that I had a lot on my mind about my Titans and my Mayo Man. I mean, I was saying that the Mayo Man was making me mad before our last show, and that doesn't mean I want to see him get hurt. I mean, I still got the parfum de mayonnaise in my house, you know. Still want the franchise guy. We'll see what happens. I still think the right move is you live or die by Will Levis. I don't think that you, even if Mason Rudolph will lead you to a few more wins this year, I would rather go 3-14, trying to find out if Will Levis is your guy, than going 8-9 and still knowing that Mason Rudolph is not your guy. That's just my take on it. But that's enough for the Titans for this week. I feel like I've said my piece. I feel like I can let this game go. We won. I can celebrate it. You know, they are in the win column, and they scored 31 points. I know it sounds like I was pretty upset. Obviously, you're never upset with the win. There's just still some question marks on what it's going to look like, because that's not a good Dolphins team. That wasn't a good Dolphins team that was out there.
No.
So I'm still skeptical on how good we actually will be. And we didn't get a good quarterback performance. But some other games around the league that are pretty notable. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers did whatever they wanted to a very good and talented Eagles team. I mean, I don't know what y'all think about that game, but that's crazy. Yeah.
I feel like Baker brings the energy, because if you go back and look at all the teams he's played with, even dating back to the Browns, like he took a struggling Browns team and took them to the playoffs. I think he went 11-6 that year, and then Matthew Stafford gets hurt in Los Angeles, and he brings that team from the dead and brings them to another playoff contention team. I feel like the players feed off of Baker. He brings that energy and excitement to the team, and it just kind of gives everybody that boost to I want to play better and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I feel like he definitely is kind of like that. I guess not pivotal player, but he definitely is a key player in that team.
Yeah. Well, I I said it before the show. I'll say it again right now live. As it stands, I think Baker is a MVP candidate this early part of the season so far, and I don't think he's leading the MVP race. I'm not saying that, but I think it's definitely something worth keeping your eyes on because he has had an amazing start to the season. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I think you nailed that on the head. I mean, he's got that personality that he can rally some guys behind. We all played college baseball. I'm sure y'all had teammates in college that had the same kind of personality that gets the whole team hyped, gets you ready, gets you fired up, feel like you can run through a wall. Baker is that kind of guy that can make his team feel feel just like that. And then he's playing amazing on top of it. I can't state enough how happy I am for him because I've always liked his personality and the way he plays. And then now, ever since going to Tampa, completely different player, and I'm just so happy for him.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting him to do that against the Eagles. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think anybody was.
No, I mean none of us did. We all picked the Eagles in this game, and he.
I will say though, like the Bucks are good, and I mean the Eagles are supposed to be good, but they're still trying to. I think since dating back to last season, I think they're like 3-8. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
they're definitely struggling, even though they just got Saquon. But
yeah, well, that's the thing too. The offense is supposed to be really good. I mean, Devontae Smith was out this week. AJ Brown was out. They're missing their good receivers, but that Eagles defense is no joke. Baker Mayfield threw for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns against them, and he ran for a touchdown. I- That's uh, that's good defense, boys. It's not like he did that against uh, one of the worst defenses in the league. That's insane. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what else the Buccaneers have. I am interested to see more of the Buccaneers this year.
yeah,
Another game that we briefly touched on, it's got a rookie quarterback in it as well, and that's where did this Commanders offense come from this year? 42-14 over the Cardinals.
Jaden Daniels, man, he's controlling the game. Like he's so it was actually a very interesting stat ESPN posted out. He has a better pass completion percentage than Tom Brady by 3%. Like his completion percentage was 82%. Brady's was 79% through the first 4 games. Like he's just a threat on both sides. I think he's got Lamar capabilities, but he's better throwing. And so I think that even makes it even more dangerous for him because he's able to not only hurt you with the legs and make great reads that way, but he's able to pick apart the defense throwing.
Yeah, and
And
he's not
so,
just hitting little check dump offs and everything. He's throwing downfield too.
yeah.
So
Scary Terry's having a great season as well, helping him out. Let's go.
it's definitely
well,
a good fit.
and Jaden Daniels, I want to say too, he threw his first interception of his career this weekend. That was an insane play by the Cardinals defender. I don't even blame that on. I mean, the ball could be thrown a little bit better, lead him a little bit more, but that was also. I don't know if y'all saw the play, but that was. If y'all haven't, y'all need to try and look it up because he like dove backwards and made like just a Superman catch, like diving back. It was crazy. So I don't fully blame. The ball could have been thrown a little bit better, but it was also just a great play on the defender. So he he's got to be the early candidate for Rookie of the Year.
Hey, all I'll say is he was the best rookie draft pick I ever had right there.
Yeah, and you don't even play him.
I played him last week. Thank you very much. He scored more than Lamar.
See, look, yeah. Well, we'll talk about fantasy too, because I've got something funny to talk about for fantasy. But the last game that was like, well, I guess there's two more. The Ravens absolutely handled the Bills, and that's none of us expected that either because of how dominant the Bills have been to this point. And then, as a Titans fan, we got to see a lot of Derrick Henry, and it seems like Derrick Henry always has the Bills number, and that continues even with the Ravens. I mean, my God, 199 rushing yards, only one touchdown, running wise, but it, that's prime Derrick Henry is what they got this weekend. They got a good taste of it. Ravens fans did.
Yeah, and I said that last week. They kind of got that ball rolling a little bit when they played Dallas, and so I feel like they're kind of finding that happy mixture between the two. Okay, we can get Derrick Henry involved early, break down that defense a little bit, and then we can let Lamar do his thing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
Ravens are going to be scary, that's for sure.
it'll be interesting to see because I mean, Bills are still, I mean, they didn't dominate the first 3 weeks for nothing. They're still a good team. Every good team loses, but that caught I think everyone off guard that they were going to get smacked like that.
I don't think it was so much that it caught everybody off guard. I think it was just that was the team we were expecting from week one, and it's just now it's showing up.
Yeah,
And so it's just like, oh, okay, now the Ravens are picking up.
now they're here. Yep. Oh, I agree. Tyler, there's a I so I didn't really watch this game at all because I pretty much went to sleep right after Titans game. But Tyler, I woke up to a text from Tyler about something that happened in the Lions game. And Tyler, do you want to share? I mean, I'm sure some people know, but not everyone probably knows what Jared Goff did last night.
Yeah, Jared Goff. He went perfect in passing for 18 for 18, and you win a game only passing the ball 18 times and being perfect. That's kind of crazy.
Not only win a game, score 42 points, only
Exactly.
throwing the ball 18 times. Well, 19. I mean, they went 19 for 19 because the receiver threw a touchdown pass.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, he threw it.
Yeah,
There
he
was
threw it to
not a
Goff.
single incompletion in that game, and they had a receiver throw a touchdown pass. I mean,
Yeah, that's crazy.
that's crazy. 42 points, and then yeah, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs had a good game, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and I wouldn't even say. I mean, Seahawks didn't even play bad. I mean, there was just they couldn't stop anything the Lions were doing. The offense for the Seahawks looked. I mean, they played as good as they could. I don't think you can blame with their offensive performance, but
I
they
will
just
say,
had no
I will say
answers.
this is a complete side note, but the Lions debuting those uniforms, those not debuting, but like showing those uniforms, those were nice. The black with
Those
the blue,
were-
it looked really good, especially
I
on
like
Monday
those.
night. Jared Goff just loves to play on prime time, so perfect time to wear them. Play good, look good, play good.
Dark mode.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree. I also am a big fan of those uniforms. Yeah, they look a little bit. They remind me a lot of the Panthers, but they look so good.
They play better than the Panthers, that's for sure.
It's exactly. So maybe that makes the uniforms look a little bit better. So, well, and, speaking of, I wasn't going to talk about that game, but Panthers offense still looks better with Andy Dalton out there. They lost, but still looks like a completely different. But that's a similar situation what I touched on with the Titans. I feel I don't like what the Panthers are doing at QB because I feel you just spent number one overall pick on Bryce Young. What is like they benching him for Andy Dalton? That's something that you do if you feel like you have a championship roster and all you need is a little bit better quarterback play. What really are they going to get out of playing Andy Dalton? That's just my opinion on it.
I feel like they have those skill players. I just don't think Bryce Young is fitting into that scheme.
Yeah.
Or that offensive scheme at least. I think Andy Dalton, you have your veteran quarterback in there. He knows how the offense works. I think this is his second or third year in Carolina, and so I feel like he kind of will fit better with that. So I don't know. I feel like Bryce Young still has a massive learning curve, because this is his second year. He still should. I mean, yes, he's young, but I don't think he should be making the amount of mistakes he's still making.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is a like a moment that they're kind of looking back at it and being like, okay, well, maybe we could trade him away and get something in return for it, or do you think that they're just going to let him have his little time on the bench and being a backup and seeing what Andy Dalton can do, and then bringing him back in and seeing if he kind of learns a little bit more, or
That's honestly a great question. I could see them doing both. To be honest with you, I could see them getting like another receiver, maybe another running back behind Chuba Hubbard, and just kind of seeing if they can help the offense even more. But at the same time, I could see them. All right, let's see what he can learn from Andy Dalton, and see how he's managing the game, and then take that learning curve and apply it to his game as well. So I think for Carolina, I think they're in a good situation here. They can kind of play at both hands.
That's the thing too, Jacob. You just mentioned them getting another running back behind Chuba Hubbard. Well, they have Jonathan Brooks on IR. He should be coming back in the next few weeks. They spent their second round on him. He's the highest drafted running back out of the draft last year from Texas. I mean, that's a massive boost. I think once he's fully healthy, he instantly becomes your new starting running back, and then now you have two good running backs in that backfield. That's going to help them out a bunch too. So it'll be interesting to see. But I don't know. I think that it's always going to haunt them that they traded up for Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud went right after that. So,
Yeah.
but a lot of people have already been fired for that. So can't blame the current people in there because certain people have already been fired for that decision, and rightfully so, in my opinion. I mean, that's just come on. Now, Jacob, you brought up fantasy a little bit earlier. Just Tyler, how'd your fantasy week go this week? Who'd you lose to?
well, in one of my leagues, one of my leagues I won, which is pretty good.
Yeah, but it's okay. What
I think
what
he's
happened
talking
in
about
our
one
matchup?
here. I think he's talking about
Yeah,
one here.
yeah, I
Tyler.
know. My team definitely underperformed. I mean, let me just,
Yeah.
I'll just, I'll just pull it up for you. That way we can fully get into this. You outscored me 144 to 93. Uh, yeah,
I did.
it's kind
I
of
did.
yeah, it was it didn't really help me that Jaden Reed got you 27 points in that in the Packers game. That really bit
I
me in
will
the
say,
butt.
yeah, I will say for
Um,
fantasy purposes, I'm not starting your boy Caleb Williams anymore, and I am putting Baker Mayfield in there. Baker
yeah, I don't know.
Mayfield will start for me the rest of the year unless he's on a bye week, or I'm not even going to say the other alternative. I don't want that to even be the kind of bad juju out there. Baker Mayfield is.
Yeah, I don't know why
I
you
actually,
started
yeah.
Caleb Williams. He
Well,
hasn't put up many fantasy points this year. So
I've struggled in. Well, that's the thing. I've struggled with all my quarterback decision making. So I started the year with Caleb Williams as my starting fantasy QB. Didn't do good, obviously. So I put Baker in there because Baker was playing great. The game I put Baker in there, Baker was my lowest scoring fantasy quarterback that same week, and I was like, okay, well, maybe Caleb Williams will carry over what he just did last week, build on it. He did in real life football. He built on it and had a good week, but in fantasy football, he didn't. And Baker Mayfield dropped 30 essentially again on my bench. So I'm not letting that happen anymore. I'm just gonna live with the lower scoring weeks from Baker Mayfield and just know that the good scoring performances are coming from
well,
him.
in my case, I have a three-way quarterback battle between Derek Carr, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold. And at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ride with Justin Fields, right? He was QB1, thought he was gonna carry over, and he just wasn't performing fantasy wise. But he was getting the win, but he wasn't performing fantasy wise. So then at that point, Sam Darnold and Derek Carr were dropping 20, 30 points on my bench. So then this week, I told myself I'm not doing it again. I'm starting Sam Darnold. Granted, he got me 21 points, but Justin Fields just casually sitting on my bench with 31. And it's like I can't win, and like if I put one in, the other one's gonna do great, and he's just not gonna perform.
And Jacob, I don't want to. It's kind of funny because it's gonna sound like sabotage, but I remember telling Tyler, dude, you got to take Justin Fields out. You got to start the guys that are playing good because Carr and Sam Darnold are both playing good, and then it just happens he finally does it the week he plays me. After I've been telling him to do that, and that's the week that.
Don't even act like you didn't do it on purpose. It happened just the way you drew it up. Made me second guess myself.
Hey.
JP, I don't know why you're laughing over there. How'd your team do?
My team is in shambles, man. I have another receiver go down. I don't have a single running back really. I have Aaron Jones. His back hurts. He's probably going to go down with a back injury from carrying my team. So yeah, no, I had Rice go down this week. Got carted off, probably ACL. That's my fourth skill guy down. So.
Oh my God! Yeah, I completely forgot about that. How we got to talk about that for a second. Like
I was gonna bring it up after we got done with fantasy because
I completely okay. Let's finish fantasy. I got one more thing to say in fantasy, and then I'll gladly go to that because I completely forgot. Me and Jacob Tyler, we actually play each other this week, so
team's
if I
absolutely
beat
in shambles,
Jacob,
man.
You'll beat Jacob.
There's no
I'll
question
call him
about
out
it.
next
Oh,
week.
there's no question about it. You'll beat me because I have Devontae Adams. He's out with a hamstring. Rice is now out for the season, most likely. C-Mac now apparently has 2 Achilles issues. It's like let's just keep tacking them up.
With no timetable on return.
Oh yeah, he's done for the season. I can just already cross him out for the rest of the year. Mr. Rico Dallas going to carry my other RB2.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, your team's actually full of all the little smaller player headlines that actually I completely forgot about that we wanted to talk about. I mean, so first of all, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, just you throw the pick, that's bad enough, and then you just go and tear your wide receiver one's ACL in the exact same play. I mean, you can't script that kind of thing, and that's what
He's just out
happened
here
in real
throwing
time.
hospital balls.
It's not funny, but it is. Like,
in Mahomes' defense, Rice was going to make a tackle, and just somebody went low, and he just kept going.
That's got to be tragic. That's a double whammy. Just throw a pick and injure your number one receiver in the exact same play. I mean, then another headline for you, Jacob, that you just mentioned. You mentioned Devontae Adams. There's a lot of trade rumors going on right now for Devontae.
I just don't think he's getting the attention that he had gotten when he was in Green Bay. They don't really have a quarterback. I mean, Gardner Minshew is solid, but he's not great. And so I feel like they're relying on their running game way too much, and he's just not getting the attention he's, I guess, expecting, especially for the contract they have him under. So, I mean, I don't blame him for that, being a big-time receiver. So, I mean, granted, if he goes to a better team, I'm not going to complain if he gets a better quarterback. But for fantasy purposes, I mean, I can understand where he's getting at that situation.
Hot take, send him to the Jets with Aaron.
Hey, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
Yeah, I would love to see a reunion between Devontae, Allen Lazard, and Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
3 former
plus
Packers.
You got Garrett Wilson out there too. I mean, that could be the Packers 2.0.
We'll have to see. That'll be interesting to keep our eyes on, see who he gets traded to, because he's now formally asked for one. So we'll see. We'll have to find out. Before we move on to college, do you have any more final thoughts on NFL on this week that just passed us?
No. Just hope the Jags can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I don't have to have the stress of my team playing this week because Titans have a bye week, so they can't disappoint me this week.
Thursday night game's going to be good. You got the Bucks and the Falcons playing.
Go Falcons.
That'll be a good
That'd be
game.
good for my fantasy team. That's what that'd be good for.
Don't worry, too. The Bears play the Panthers this week, so maybe Caleb Williams will get a good stat padding game this week and get
That's
some experience
actually
under his belt.
that's great for the Bears. I mean, that's a real chance of getting a winning record, moving up to 3-2.
Yeah.
That's a big game for them this week. So we'll definitely have to keep our eyes out for that. But yeah, so the only things we only wanted to touch on a couple things for college because Saturdays are going to be like our main college days, but we haven't had a chance to talk since the newest top 25 came out for college, and there was some pretty big changes. I mean, obviously, number number 2 Georgia and number 4 Alabama played against each other. That's obviously going to shake a few things up. You had a few upsets this week, but overall, I mean, is there anything that like stands out to y'all in the top 25 that kind of shocked you, or maybe you think a team should be ranked a little bit higher, or you think a team's ranked too high? Like, is there anything that stands out to y'all in terms of that?
I still
I
think USC is a little too high. Sorry, but I think USC is still a little too high. I don't think they're complete just yet. So I feel like them being put at 11 is a little too high for my like. I would see them more of like a 13 or 14, but I don't know that. I just don't think they're a complete team just quite yet. I still think Lincoln Riley's still figuring out the offense and defense is still working their kinks out to complete a complete 60-minute game. So that's where I think they're just ranked a little too high.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss is still ranked a little too high, especially going and getting beat at home against a unranked Kentucky team.
I was actually kind of shocked with that too, that they only dropped to number 12.
Yeah.
I completely understand Georgia only dropping to 5. That makes sense. Ole Miss, I thought they were going to drop a lot further. I mean, I I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more. And I know um, we were talking about some teams that we were high on, and me and Jacob both agreed about BYU, and I thought that because they were dominant at first, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit, didn't win by as much. That the game was a lot more dominant than what the scoreboard ended up showing. I was actually kind of shocked. I think they're deserving of moving up into 17, but I thought that the polls would actually have them a little bit down towards like the 19 to 20. I think that they're rightfully deserving of being in the top. Honestly, I could argue for them to be top 15. But that was something that I think that the polls got right, and I thought that they were gonna not move them up as much as they did, but they moved up 5 spots from 22 to 17, which they're a team that I'm still really high on. I can see them having a great year this year. Um, and actually, another one, Louisville was in a very close game with Notre Dame, and Louisville dropped like a rock too.
Seven
Seven
spots.
seven spots.
Yeah, that's a little crazy to me. I mean, if you're gonna drop certain teams, and that's their first loss of the year against a ranked Notre Dame team, I don't know. That was a little odd to
I
me too.
touched
I
on
wasn't expecting
Jesus.
them to drop that far. That was shocking to me, but um, yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really have any complaints. I'm kind of shocked.
There's one team I want to point out is UNLV.
Yeah,
They're 4-0.
with their quarterback taking a redshirt year and their starting running back, and then they still are out here outperforming. Yeah.
This is the first time the program's ever been ranked. This is the first time they've ever been ranked in the AP polls since joining the Division One since in 1978.
yeah.
Like they have never been ranked. It's the first time they've gone 4-0 also to start the season.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and unfortunately, it could be short-lived. They don't have an easy matchup this week. They are at home, but Syracuse comes to town. 3-1 Syracuse. It's a Power 5 team. It'll be interesting. I think that's a game. If they win that one, right now, Army is who I think is going to be representing the Group 5 conferences in the playoffs. If they win that game, then that's probably going to change my opinion on that, because this is a real big chance for UNLV to give a statement. And they already beat Kansas and Houston, so we'll see. We'll see if they can pull another one out. They didn't give themselves the easy schedule, that's for sure. So out of conference, so we'll see.
There you go. Aim big, miss
Do you
small.
have anything else on the top 25?
No, I think that was good.
All right, so well, we wanted to touch on this on Saturday, but we weren't able to. We streamed kind of late for some
Very
people.
late.
So it was just tired, didn't get a chance to. But one thing we prepared. Um, we all are going to make our playoff predictions as it stands right now of the 12 teams that we think. This isn't a ranking of who we think is number 1 down to number 12. This is just the 12 teams that we think will be in the playoffs. So it's not in any particular order. It's just the 12 teams we think will be in there. So I don't know if one of you boys want to kick us off on that one, but
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Texas is an easy one there. I mean, they're playing solid football all the way around. Their defense is going strong. I think we all saw that in week 2 whenever they played Michigan. I have Ohio State in there as well. Uh, as much as we say that Ohio State hasn't played anybody, they dominated Michigan State for their conference opener. I think 38-7 is a pretty strong statement right out of the gate after saying they haven't really done much. Clemson's kind of like my sneaky ACC team in there. I know Dabo didn't really pick anybody up in the transfer portal, and so everybody kind of had low hopes on him. And then after taking a punch in the face from Georgia right out of the gate, I feel like they kind of gathered themselves a little bit, and they're kind of making a push through the ACC. BYU, I'm really high on BYU. I think they're just playing really good football. I haven't really paid too much attention to them in the Big 12, but I think they're just going to be a strong contender in there. Alabama, we all saw what happened Saturday against Georgia at home. They controlled the game for 60 minutes. I know it got a little close towards the end, but they really just controlled the game. Didn't really let Georgia breathe that much. Kansas State, I know they had a little hiccup against BYU, but they were able to bounce back that next week against Oklahoma State. So I feel like, and their quarterback is making adjustments. I know I heard something that he was a little hothead, but their coach is able to coach him into using that heated moments into the game and to have it as a learning curve. Oregon, I have them coming out of the Big Ten as well with Ohio State. Oregon obviously hasn't looked great, but I feel like Dylan Gabriel and them are going to go and get that offense rolling. I think they're going to be a sneaky team going into it. Georgia, I mean, there's not really much to say besides Alabama has Georgia's number. They're 1-6 against Alabama. I mean, that's just tough right there. But if you go back and look at their record before the Alabama game, they had like a 42-43 game regular season win streak going.
yeah.
Like that's impressive. So I mean, I feel like you can't really. There's not much to argue with that because they'll most likely win out the rest of the season. Iowa State's kind of been my little sleeper pick out of the Big 12. They're a quiet 5-0 team, and so they haven't. They've played some big teams and they've played some small teams, but they've all been really low scoring games besides one. And so I know they got a massive rival win against Iowa when won 21-20. And so that was kind of like a very pivotal moment for Iowa State. And then I have Tennessee in there. I like what Nico's doing. I like what Heupel's doing in there as well. I know they got a massive test coming up against Arkansas this week after a long break after a massive win against Oklahoma. So I'd like to see what goes on there. My 2 sleeper picks here is Army. Army has adapted a new play style. We all knew Army as the triple option. They could run the ball like crazy, put up 400 yards rushing. Now they've kind of adapted a new scheme here where they're actually throwing the ball more and have a quarterback that can do it. And then the other one is James Madison. They went out and won a basketball score against North Carolina. And so I feel like they're going to probably win the Sun Belt there and just take it from there. And who knows what happens after that. So I think those are going to be my two sleeper picks right there, Army and James Madison.
I like it. I don't think we can argue with those one bit. I don't think anybody can. James
Yeah.
Madison's they're both receiving votes in the top 25 polls, so they're in. If they keep winning, they're in striking distance.
I'm gonna be honest
so.
with you, JP. I think you hit that right on the head. Like, pretty much all my picks were that. The only like I'm looking at the top 12 right now, and like I think USC will fall out of the top 12, and Ole Miss will fall out of the top 12, and that's where Army, like you said, will come in, because I'm very high on Army too. Like, after watching it a little bit and really understanding it, and then I think BYU. Penn State's up there right now. You guys think that Penn State will stay there, or do you think?
For me, so you'll find my answer out here in a few moments on what I think about Penn State.
I think Penn State will Penn
I'll let
State.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think I think Penn State will get replaced with Army, not in any certain order. Penn State will get replaced with Army. I think Ole Miss will get replaced with BYU, and then I think USC will get replaced with. I think after that one loss that Notre Dame had, I think that they kind of like, okay, we're getting back to what we need to do. So I think Notre Dame will squeak in to the top 12.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, mine's very similar to both of y'all's. It has a mix of both. I mean, obviously, I don't think any of us disagree with, your Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia. Those are it feels like locks for most of the country. Those are the obvious ones. Um, I also have Miami. Um, I also have Tennessee. The difference where mine is versus y'all's is I do have Penn State in there. Penn State normally does Penn State, but in normal years they play both Michigan and Ohio State in the same year. This year, Michigan got swapped out for USC. I see Penn State winning that against USC, and I think a one-loss Penn State team, if their one loss is Ohio State, definitely makes the playoffs. But that's a home game for Penn State. It'll be interesting to see. I still think Ohio State will win that, but as long as Penn State doesn't get dominated, and if that's their only loss, then I see Penn State being in it. But we'll have to see what they do. But right now, I have Penn State in there. I agree with Army. I have Army in there. Obviously BYU. The only difference I'm making this week is Utah did just lose late Saturday night. I think I am going to swap them out for Notre Dame as well. I had that written down. I was going to do that, and then Tyler, you stole the words out of my mouth. They looked good again against Louisville. They had a wake-up call. Normally, if you lose a game like that, Northern Illinois, you're going to drop a lot further, and probably, I mean, you wouldn't be saying that kind of thing, but the way I'm looking at it, their schedule, I mean, before the season, you would have thought they had a pretty tough schedule. Florida State's not a tough game anymore. I'm sorry, it's not. So their toughest game left is rivalry week. They play USC. I think if they win out and win that game, they're definitely in, and they should win out, and then just depends on how they do against USC. But that's my 12. We all have pretty similar ones. There's just a few tweaks here and there, but
All around pretty solid. It'd be fun.
I'm sure that'll change as the weeks go on. I know it'll change. We'll have some more upsets as always in college football, so that's one of the things we love about it. But as it stands, that's what it is. Boys, I feel like feel like we're getting the hang of this thing right here.
We
I'm
are.
having fun
We
with
are.
it. I hope y'all are
Yeah.
having fun too. Um, yeah, I'm excited. I was excited all day today to get on here. Um, for our viewers that are tuned in, hope y'all are also enjoying it. I think we should implement something just to get y'all involved too. I mean, question of the day is, I guess, we'll do a two-parter. Who's your favorite NFL team? And part two is, we talked about it last show. Who's a college football team that y'all are high on that may not your obvious pick of like, obviously Texas or somebody like that, but who's another team in the country that you're high on that you think has a really good shot that's kind of being overlooked by the country? But other than that, boys, it's been great tonight, and everyone else. Hope y'all keep tuning in, watching us, because we're having fun with it. We want to make sure y'all have fun too, and helps us out if you like and subscribe. Gets us more more attention on our channel that we're trying to grow, and see where we can go with it.
Y'all got any final thoughts?
Go Bulls.
Yeah.
Go
Tell you what, buddy.
Bulls.
When Alabama rolls around, your boy might be in Knoxville for that. Might have to go swing down and drive a whopping 7 hours down there, but hey, you know, we're gonna rock with it. We're gonna support the boys.
It'll be a fun one to be at.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Alrighty, boys.
All right, well, if nobody has any final thoughts, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we'll be back. I think me and JP are gonna start doing another side episode with some MLB, and then obviously Dylan can join in whenever with that if he would like. We have hockey starting next Tuesday, so that's another thing we can start talking about as well. And yeah, so if you guys have any questions for us, go ahead and drop a comment, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you,
See ya.
See ya.